Hey everyone! Now you may be familiar with UGREEN's USB chargers and power banks, but like Anker, they're taking that expertise and scaling it way up for the power station market. In this video, I'll be taking a look at their biggest power station, the PowerRoam 2200, that has a 2 kWh LFP battery, 2400 watt AC inverter, 1200 watts of solar input. It retails for $19.99, but with a $400 coupon code in the description, you can pick it up for $15.99 at launch. It comes with a 5-year warranty, and UGREEN is an established company with very good support. If this sounds a lot like the Ecoflow Delta 2 Max or Anker Solix 2000, you'd be right. In fact, this has pretty much all the same features. The same battery and inverter size, high-speed wall and solar charging, app control, expansion batteries, and a modern design. So why would you pick this over those popular power stations? Well, there's a few things that really make this stand out. First, this has some of the best USB outputs I've seen in a power station. There's 4 USB-C high power ports, one that supports PD 3.1 for up to 140 watts of output, a second with 100 watts of output, and a pair of 45 watt ports. There's also 2 USB-A ports that can output 22 watts each, for a total of 6 USB ports. UGREEN is one of the top brands for USB chargers and power banks, so it's no surprise this is a strength. This has more USB ports and each supports more power than anything I've reviewed so far, so if you use USB-C power delivery as much as I do, this is a great feature. In addition to a standard 12-volt cigarette port and a pair of 5521 ports that every other power station has, this includes an Anderson power pole output that offers up to 300 watts of regulated DC output. This is a killer feature for a camper van or RV because it lets you run things like a diesel heater, lights, and a compressor fridge, no problem. High-power DC output is a feature you normally only see on larger and more expensive power stations like the Ecoflow Delta Pro or Zendor Super Base V, so it's really cool to see it in a more reasonably sized unit. Next, it has a fast UPS feature that makes this a good choice for backing up critical loads like your internet, modem, or computer during a power outage. It will automatically switch from wall power to battery in just 20 milliseconds, which is fast enough to keep your computer online. You can connect up to 5 of their 2 kWh expansion batteries for up to 12 kWh of total storage, which is really impressive. That's much better than the 6 kWh on the Delta 2 Max and the 4 kWh on the Anker Solix. Unfortunately, they didn't have an expansion battery available for me to test when I was working on this review, but it looks like a really nice stackable design. Lastly, this has a unique design with detachable trolley that has wheels and a telescoping handle to make it really portable, but it can be removed to fit into tight spaces like in an RV. I like how this has 4 wheels so the unit stays flat when moving it around because it makes the expansion battery stacked on top very secure. The Anker Solix has wheels and a handle too, but they're baked in, so it makes the unit 11 pounds heavier and 30% larger than the UGREEN. It also only has 2 wheels, so when you move it, the unit is tilted and the expansion battery can easily slide off. The Delta 2 Max is 6 pounds lighter and roughly the same volume as the UGREEN, but doesn't have any wheels or handle, so you need to DIY something. So those are the top features that really set this apart and makes it a great pick for home backup and camper van builds. Let's jump in and look at the features and performance in detail. The overall design of the PowerRoam 2200 is pretty simple and clean with an understated all-black color scheme. There's 2 handles on top that make it easy to lug around its 56-pound weight. In the box you get a manual, 5-year warranty card, wall charging cable, car charger, 2 solar adapters that connect 3 panels in series apiece, and heavy-duty 5521 cable. But they also include a lightweight dust cover, trolley with wheels and handle, and a nice zippered storage bag. This is packed with accessories. My only complaint is the bag is so small it doesn't fit the solar adapters, but it's still a nice touch. The front panel has the display, USB, and DC outputs. All the inputs are on the left side, and all the AC outputs are on the right-hand side. The display has a clean design with the state of charge in the middle, input and output power on each side, and the time remaining. There's a row of status icons on both sides. It's bright and easy to read, but a bit plain looking. This has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in, so you can connect it to UGREEN's smartphone app. You can choose to connect it with Bluetooth if you want, but Wi-Fi will let you monitor and control it from anywhere. Pairing was pretty easy. You just press the IoT button and follow the setup wizard. The app is really nicely designed and pretty similar to other brands. The main screen lets you see the current state of charge and the input and output power. There's a settings area to adjust things like the screen and unit timeouts, quiet charging speed, and display brightness. The best part about having an app is that you can install firmware updates in the future to deal with bugs or add new features. Below the display are the 6 USB outputs. This is the best assortment of USB ports I've seen, and I really like that this supports PD 3.1. I was able to charge my 15-inch MacBook Pro at 100 watts, which is the max it will accept. And to really push it to the max, I recharged my Anker 737 power bank at the full 140 watts since it supports PD 3.1. I then plugged things into all 6 USB ports and pulled 280 watts, which is pretty incredible. To push it even further, I then connected my DC load tester and maxed out the cigarette port at 10 amps or 120 watts. The PowerRoam put out over 370 watts between USB and DC, and the fans barely even kicked on. So this thing is a true powerhouse. By default, the USB ports are always on, which is very convenient, but I like that you can turn them off by double-clicking the DC button or using the app. There's a light on the left that cycles through low, high, strobe, and SOS modes. Look, it's okay in a pinch, but it's basically a flashlight that shines into your eyes, so I don't think it's very practical. On the right side, there's a regulated 12-volt cigarette port that can output up to 10 amps or 120 watts, and a pair of 5521 ports that can each output 5 amps or 60 watts. Best of all, there's an Anderson PowerPole port on the side that will output up to 300 watts of regulated DC power, which is a huge feature for camper vans or RVs because this is enough power to run a compressor fridge, diesel heater, lights, and other DC appliances without overloading. Just keep in mind that the total DC output is limited to 300 watts across all DC ports combined. It worked great for powering my big Dometic 75 dual zone, running in freezer mode for 12 hours. This output 10 amps or 120 watts for 18 hours straight at a steady 12.4 volts, and could handle surges up to 12 amps for a few seconds, which is very impressive for the cigarette and 5521 outputs. I connected my DC load tester at 120 watts and was able to pull 1,805 watt hours or 89% of its rated capacity, which is very good because it took a full 18 hours to fully drain the battery. I left the DC ports on with nothing connected for 12 hours, and the PowerRoam was still at 100% at the end, so standby losses are basically zero. To test the 5521 ports, I plugged in this car charger and pulled a full 60 watts of its rated power. I tested the Anderson port while maxing out the 12-volt port at the same time, and it seems to be regulated at an even higher voltage, which is great. This is a killer feature for a camper van or RV. On the right side are 6 AC plugs for the 2,400 watt pure sine wave inverter. I maxed out the inverter at 2,400 watts and it easily ran that for a full 30 minutes. I pushed this really hard with a 3,100 watt load with 2 space heaters and a heat gun, and it could handle that for about 30 seconds before it triggered an overload. So this has a decent amount of headroom for surges, and the voltage only dropped to a low of 107 volts. Under max load, the fans spin up to full speed, but it only measured 46 decibels, which is really quiet. I left the AC ports on with nothing connected for 12 hours and the battery drained by 10%, which is about as good as it gets for AC standby losses. In a 0.2C capacity test where I drained this over 5 hours, I connected a space heater that pulled 465 watts and measured 1,880 watt hours in my first test and 1,910 watt hours in my second run, which is an impressive 92% of its rated capacity. That's way better than the 80% average I usually see. For charging, you can plug this into a wall and charge it at 15 amps or 1800 watts with the integrated charger. There's no need for an external power brick. I saw a little under 1700 watts when plugged into a standard 15 amp outlet. This charged very quickly, from 0 to 50% in just 42 minutes, to 80% in 1 hour and 16 minutes, and all the way to 100% in exactly 1.5 hours. I wish you could set the charging speed in the app, but the only option is to flip on quiet charging mode, and that reduces the speed to 600 watts, which will preserve the lifespan of the battery and does make the fans pretty much whisper quiet. I just wish you could set exactly how much power you want to charge with, like other popular power stations. When charging at full speed, the fans spin up, but it was very quiet at 43 decibels at 1 meter. In quiet mode, this wasn't any louder than the ambient background noise. You could also plug this into your car with the included cable at 8 amps. In my test, it charged at the full 100 watt rating, but this would take almost a full day to recharge. The PowerRoam 2200 has a pair of MPPT solar charge controllers, and each is capable of handling 12 to 60 volts at 15 amps for up to 600 watts max. And that adds up to a total of 1,200 watts of solar. UGREEN sent me a pair of their 200 watt folding panels to test with the PowerRoam. These are super sleek in all black and have a 4-panel design with monocrystalline cells and rugged ETFE coating. They have 4 kickstands that keep the panel fairly flat and rigid. They retail for $500 each and weigh 18.7 pounds. They include an XT60 cable to connect the panel to the PowerRoam, but they also include a second cable to swap the output to MC4, which is nice because that's weatherproof and gives you more wiring options. Just be aware that it can't be used to adapt an MC4 panel to XT60 in order to plug it into a power station, because that will end up wiring the panel with reverse polarity. I learned that the hard way. When I connected a panel, I was surprised I only got around 100 watts on a sunny day at noon with optimum angles. I tested the other panel and got the same 100 watts, or 50% of its 200 watt rating, so something was seriously up. To double check, I hooked the same panel into my Ecoflow Delta 2 and got 160 watts, or 80% of its rating, so the panels perform quite well, just not with my unit. I tried some other panels with similar voltages around 20 volts, including this X-Star 150 watt panel, and this Bluetti 200 watt panel, and something is definitely not right with my solar charge controller with lower voltage panels. I compared notes with my friends Jasonoid and Johnny's Weekend, and they both got around 160 to 170 watts with their units and the same panels, so I'm going to chalk this up to a bug in my pre-production unit. UGREEN told me it might be fixable with a firmware update, so I'll post an update in the description when this is resolved. The funny thing is this is only an issue with lower voltage panels. When I tested this Anker panel, it worked great. Same story with these 3 40-volt panels wired in parallel. UGREEN includes a pair of these adapters to let you connect up to 3 panels together in series, so you can connect a total of 6 200-watt panels across both inputs for 1,200 watts max. When I connected both UGREEN 200-watt panels together in series with this adapter, I got 325 watts, or 81% of the rated output, so my hunch is this unit is thinking lower voltage panels are a car charger and limiting the current to 8 amps, so it very well could be a software glitch. I wanted to test 3 panels connected to the serial adapter, and since this Bluetti panel is pretty much the same voltage, I plugged that in and got 420 watts. These 3 panels in series are actually 67.9 volts open circuit, so the 60 volt limit may be actually closer to 70 volts. Be careful though, if you over voltage this, you can fry the solar charge controller, so be sure to give me a thumbs up for risking my power station for the sake of science. I was curious if the other pins were energized if you plugged a solar panel into the first slot of the serial adapter. That was a big safety issue with the Anker Solix, and I wanted to check. When I plugged in a panel and tested the second set of pins, there was no power, so that's a really great result. The third set of pins is energized, but it's protected by a cover, so this is a much safer system than Anker's. Lastly, I hope this would let you charge from solar and wall power at the same time, but as soon as I connected the AC power, the current from the solar panels dropped to 0, so it favors grid over solar power. Other than the small hiccup with lower voltage panels, the solar inputs on this worked very well with a wide range of panels and wiring scenarios, and the dual inputs is a killer feature. Their 200 watt panels were solid performers that output 80% of their rating and have really nice build quality. So let's talk about the pros and cons of the PowerRoam 2200. First of all, the ability to expand this to 12 kilowatt hours by adding up to 5 expansion batteries is a huge feature for home backup. The 2400 watt pure sine wave inverter has excellent 92% efficiency. There's tons of powerful USB-C ports. The 300 watt regulated DC output with Anderson connection is clutch for using in an RV or camper van setup. Dual MPPT solar inputs for 1200 watts of power is really great. I really like the removable wheels and handle. The fast 20 millisecond UPS feature is really great to keep critical appliances running when the grid goes down. It includes Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, with a really nice smartphone app. Now there are some cons with this unit. First of all, there's no wireless charger. I don't really feel like the flashlight is very useful and the light isn't very pleasant. The 60 volt max on the solar inputs can be quite limiting when you're wiring up panels, but it seems like that's now the new standard. You can't adjust the charging speed in the app other than turning it on to silent mode. It's a bit limiting. Now I didn't go into this review thinking this would actually unseat my current favorite, the Anker Solix 2000, or the Ecoflow Delta 2 Max as my top pick for a 2 kWh power station, but here we are. All right, everyone. That's it for this review. Till next time.